A federal judge has blocked President Donald Trump's executive order to dismantle the education department and has ordered the agency to reinstate employees who were fired in mass layoffs. However, the Supreme Court's conservative majority on Thursday said President Trump likely has the authority to fire independent agency board members. The administration preparing to challenge the ruling, which came in two consolidated lawsuits that said Trump's plan amounted to an illegal closure of the education department.
Joining us again this morning, our chief legal analyst, Khalif Roods. I told you earlier that was part one. Now we're talking part two. More legal issues, Trump administration, some of these independent agencies. But this is interesting because the judge did say in this instance, Khalif, that there was irreparable harm to schools and to students. So when we talk about this injunction, I mean, how does this immediately affect students, teachers, and institutions?
Well, if you're removing the Department of Education and you're removing the key assets to what they provide to the individual states in direction and guidance, not specifically funding, then yes, it would have irreparable harm. Irreparable harm, if we remember, is not, it's that money can't fix it. And so you can't send back money to these kids that are in third grade and next year they'll be in fourth grade. Well, if you have been harmed during your third grade year, you can't get that back. I can't say, well, here's $100,000. Go figure out how to fix that third grade that you missed or messed up. So that's what the judge was going with their analogy. But if you look at both of these situations, we have the case here where the judge is saying that you can't do this, but on the same hand, we have the Supreme Court saying that, okay, you may be able to fire these folks on these independent agencies. It's where we're at right now is a tipping point and at a crossroads as a judicial system. You see these lower inferior courts making decisions that are sound and based in law and rationale, where this court's a U.S. District Court judge. You have a Court of Appeals in this other case. They went to a 3-panel court session. They ruled against the folks with these administrative agencies. Well, when they went to the entire full panel, they ruled in favor of allowing these folks to have their job back. So then it kicks up to the Supreme Court. I'm like, not so fast. We're really not going to touch the underlying issue, but we're going to allow those folks to not get their job back while we wait to discuss the underlying issue. So many confusing signals that the Supreme Court is sending right now, but also tipping their hat. And that's what Justice Kagan said. She said, well, at the end of the day, it seems like you're foreshadowing what you're going to already do. Once this case comes back to us eventually, you guys are going to rule in favor that President Trump and any president in the future has the ability to do what you guys have said since 1930 they can't do, which again is an extremely confusing place to put me as a reader of these orders, but even a layperson that doesn't read these things and it doesn't understand what's happening. We are changing, the evolution is happening right now of the powers of the presidency. In this case, specifically with these board positions, is extremely troubling.
I mean, we're talking about almost 90 years of precedent that this court could potentially overturn there by allowing him to do this. And they're saying you don't even need to have cause. You can just say, I don't agree with the way you're doing things. And this is particularly troubling because when you talk about removing these independent agency officials, they can't have a quorum. And it's not like you can just go hire somebody else. Those then have to go through a confirmation process. So he's removing their ability to do work. You're giving the president almost king-like powers.
That 100%. You taking the words out of the liberal justices that spoke on this right out of their mouth. I mean, these agencies are independent for a reason. They're independent so that they don't have fear of repercussion from a president that doesn't like them. But what I can tell you is this Supreme Court isn't stupid. So we're talking about these independent agencies and how the president can have authority to fire them. But what was also brought up is, well, what about the Fed chair? Can you fire the Fed chair? Well, we don't want to have that conversation. Why? Because even the mere mentioning of him firing Chair Powell a few weeks ago, what happened? The market tumbled, and the president had to roll back his comments. So the Supreme Court wanted to be clear, even though they're supposed to be nonpartisan and they're supposed to not take these outside issues into consideration, they were clear to say, we're talking about these other agencies. We're not talking about that agency because they don't want the market to tumble. So you'll allow the National Labor Relations Board and other agencies to tumble, but let's make sure that we protect the market. Give us a clear answer if you're going to do it. Make it the same for all agencies because that's an independent agency as well.
Protect the money.
My granddad used to say, it's clear as mud. There we go. So there you go. We're trying to understand it. Thanks for trying to help us. That's part two. We got Khalif part three coming up in about 30 minutes. Thanks, Khalif.